So here we were talking about, tech companies for the most part are into AI these days. There's studies that show AI has increased, the employment of AI in business products has increased over 270% over the past 4 years alone. And it's just exponentially increasing now. So in the next few years, if you're going to be competitive in the business world, it's very important to know how to operate and manage AI. So when you invest resources in developing AI tools for your customers or business applications, naturally that investment you'll want to protect. So you should certainly consider patenting the AI invention that your data scientist team come up with. So how do you do it? What are the tips for increasing the likelihood of patenting an AI invention? AI at its core is really just software. So naturally, the same challenges that apply to software in terms of prospects of getting a patent, they apply to AI as well. And we're seeing statistics at the patent office that are very consistent with that as well. AI is getting Alice-type rejections quite frequently these days. So there are tips, especially at the drafting phase, of how to foresee those Alice-type challenges and to navigate them on the front end, so you hopefully would avoid them at the patent office. So here, when you're drafting a patent that relates to artificial intelligence, you'll get a chance to speak with the scientists or someone from the team who invented this to begin with. So if you get that chance to speak with them, what are some important questions to ask that will give you information which will ultimately set you up for success to obtain a patent on that invention? Well, the first thing you should ask is, what are the improvements, what are the technical improvements that arise out of this invention? Data scientists are brilliant and are typically focused on the functionality of work, because the patent office doesn't allow us, they view software inventions unfavorably. But if the software invention improves the functioning of a computer, then you're well suited to get to increase the likelihood of getting a patent, barring any other prior issues. So what does that really mean? How do you talk to a data scientist inventor about what the functioning, how this invention, AI invention, improves the functioning of a computer? Well, these are the specific questions and tips to discuss when you're talking to these data scientists in the AI context, because it's a little different than just traditional software. So you would ask about the AI models. So when a data scientist is working on employing AI in a business application, what's very important is model selection. There's a wide variety of models out there. The data scientist is going to select some of these models for the pipeline, and then they train the models. But it's important to walk through the steps that the data scientist had to undertake before making that selection. Why did the inventor select this specific model? What does it do to improve or to facilitate the overall function of the model? And now there are models that are described in publications. Those they call off-the-shelf models. So when you want to patent it, you should really drive home the point of how is this model specialized. If you want to, it has to be innovative, right? So typically an inventor will take this off-the-shelf model and specialize it. It's important to figure out how is this model specialized. What are the new parameters, improved parameters? What's different about this AI model than its off-the-shelf version of it? Typically, these AI models are heavily dependent on the work that happened before them, right? The publication that described the model, how it works, the functionality, that sort of thing. But it needs to be tweaked and specialized if it's going to be innovative and patentable, right? So it's important to walk through that. What is this AI model specialized? What's special about the structure here? Maybe it's a pipeline, meaning two or more models in a sequence, right? That's the ML machine learning pipeline. What's specialized about this, right? that information will set you up for success to describe an improvement to the functioning of a computer. And then again, why was this model selected? There's lots of models out there. What is important about this specific model? What drove you as the inventor to make that selection? The information you get in response will set you up for success in describing an improvement to the functioning of a computer. And again, when you're discussing the why in terms of selecting a model, it's important to layer in a discussion of what's the technical improvement that arises out of that selection. There's a lot of directions you can go with this question, but the core here is when you select a model, how are you improving performance? There's always performance issues when it comes to AI, and the data scientists, they're working on how to solve these performance issues. Perhaps the specific selection of a model is what drives that is improving performance. It's important to talk about that. And what does it mean to improve performance? Well, training an AI model can take days. Maybe the selection of a specific model shorten that time, or maybe the tuning of that model or the specialization of that model, maybe that reduced training time. That's a huge improvement in performance, and that's a reduction on the processing burdens that the model imposes on servers, for example. That's an example. Maybe maybe the training data used to set up the patterns and correlations in the model, maybe that was really complex. Perhaps fixing that data, curating it, needs a special model first before it goes into the core model, right? There's a lot of things that need to happen to make an AI invention work. So to talk about that, it's pretty core. Now, on to the next question. You can ask the inventor, does this AI invention, is it used in conjunction with a specific real-world machine? And how can you integrate that into your ultimate claim as a patent attorney when you're asking this? That's kind of why you ask this, because you want to see, is there something in the real world that's affected, that's changed as a result of the output of this model? Certain machines can change their direction in terms of robotics. You use AI. The output of the AI model is certainly impacting a particular machine in the real world, in real time. If that's the case, if that applies here, that information is important to include in the claim, and it's important to describe in the patent application itself, because that content will set you up for success to overcome any potential patent eligibility issues down the line if they arise and the examiner examines this application. So on to the next question. Oh, and it's actually one specific thing here, back to that question too. The mere use of some real world machine or thing isn't enough to satisfy this. What you really need to do is have typically when there's a control aspect here, in the sense of, like I said, the output of the AI model controls and determines the movement of a specific device in the real world. That's the level at which this will succeed to overcome an Alice type rejection. Not just the mere use of some real world thing, like using a computer as a tool to display something. That's not going to get you there. Even though you're using a real world device, what you really need to do is control that device to some extent. Question 3 that you'd ask is, does this invention affect a transformation or a reduction of a particular article to a different state? This one, it's not as relevant for the AI context, but it certainly can be. And again, it's about the real world. What's affected in the real world? Is something or some composition being transformed as a result of the AI invention. If that's the case, you're setting yourself up for success if you describe that in the specification and also in the claims. Now, on to the next part. So these are the questions you'd ask to gather helpful information that will set you up for success to overcome an Alice type rejection should you receive one in your AI-based patent. Now, on the flip side of that coin, what do you watch out for? What pitfalls should you watch out for that an examiner can pick out at to support a rejection based on patent eligibility? Well, as you're drafting this application, as you're writing this claim, it's important to see or assess whether this invention is merely just using a computer as a tool. If the computer is merely displaying information, transmitting information, receiving information, if that's it, manipulating some information, perhaps that's not quite enough. So if that's the case, then it's important to go back and really drive home the question of how is the performance of a computer improved by this invention? And again, specifically in the AI context, the questions you want to ask are, why do you select this model? What improvement comes from the model? So there's often something there. And that's key to overcome. If you find yourself feeling that this invention just uses the computer traditionally, then that's not going to work to overcome AI inventions. Now, when you're claiming features, you want to watch out for claiming subject matter that's just incidental to the primary process of the AI invention, that they're just nominal or perhaps tangential to the real function and the real business value of the real business use case, I should say, of that. So that means gathering data. Sometimes you have to write that in a claim to set up the whole process flow, but still identify or know that information is not going to help you overcome an invention. So it's critical to ensure that the claim has more than just that information, like gathering data, displaying information. That's not typically core to inventions. The invention is for improving the analysis of text documents using artificial intelligence, using natural language processing, gathering data and displaying information. It's tangential to the core invention. So if you find yourself describing operations that are tangential to what's really core, it's important to stop there and really bolster the improvement. And that's how you'll set yourself up for success. And those are some of the tips for patenting an AI-based invention.